Once again, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, good afternoon and welcome to International Workers' Day, where the People's Campaign for Equality, Jobs and Justice began about 3 weeks ago. Recognizing that today is International Workers' Day all around the world, we are now going to have Brother Alan Wilkinson, who is the President of the Bermuda Trade Union Congress, to come forward and address you first. After Brother Wilkinson address you, there will be one other person that will speak to you, because around about 1 o'clock or close to 1, we want to be able to begin the march to present the People's Manifesto to the Premier of the country as well as the opposition leader. So Brother Alan Wilkinson, can you come?
Thank you, Chris. Good afternoon and welcome. Today, May 1st, is known as May Day or International Workers' Day in most countries around the world. Last year on May 1st, the Bermuda Trade Union Congress gathered on the steps of City Hall to commemorate International Workers' Day. At that time, the Workers' Day be recognized as the official Labor Day holiday. Once again, the Bermuda Trade Union Congress is calling for May Day to be recognized as the official Labor Day holiday and not the first day in September. The Bermuda Trade Union Congress is aware that in March 1982, the then Shadow Minister of Home Affairs, the late Eugene Cox, piloted an amendment to the Public Holidays Act 1947, which added Labor Day to the list of public holidays in Bermuda. Mr. Cox's amendment called for Labor Day to be celebrated on the first day in May. While this amendment was passed, the government at the time did not agree to the holiday being celebrated in May, but instead assented that Labor Day be celebrated on the first Monday in September. At this time, we pause to remember our deceased brother, Comrade Richard Doc Lynch, who served for many years as the president of BIU's Construction Division. On May 1st of every year while he was with us, always recognized May Day by placing an advertisement in the daily newspaper. May Day is a day to uphold workers' struggle around the world. Workers will take to the streets in most of the major cities around the world, holding up their union banners and their red flags. Workers will march and protest, listen to rousing speeches, and appreciate the past sacrifices of labor leaders. Labor leaders and activists in every country know the story of the heroic Haymarket Marchers of Chicago, who in 1986 led strikes and militant protests against big industrial bosses and bankers. Some of the labor leaders were American-born, while others were immigrants from Germany and other countries, just like Chicago today. All of them were united, understanding the working class and the basis of social change, a revolutionary class, a class of future with the right to rule society. Today, May 1st, 2014, the Bermuda Trade Union Congress is recognizing May Day or International Workers' Day along with the People's Campaign. The Bermuda Trade Union Congress wishes to thank all who have come in support of the People's Campaign. We ask for your continued support as we fight for equality, jobs, and justice. God bless and enjoy the day.
Thank you, Brother Allen. In order for us to get a clear picture of what is going to be presented to the Premier of the country and the opposition leader in the next half hour or so, Reverend Nicholas Genevieve Tweed is going to bring you what we propose as the People's Campaign for Equality, Jobs and Justice, what we're going to present to the Premier and the opposition leader. But I'm more than sure he's got a few other words he's going to say to you also. So let's now welcome Reverend Tweed.
We're requesting that at the conclusion of this part of the event that all the marshals meet at the West Gate. Good morning. Good afternoon. We're going to try a little exercise. We are the People's Campaign. So when I ask you what do we want, you say equality. When I ask you when do you want it, you say now. What do we want? Jobs. When do we want them? Now. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. So let's try and see if we can't wake up some people. What do we want? Equality. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Jobs. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Equality. Catch up now. What do we want? Equality. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Jobs. When do we want them? Now. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. All right. On behalf of the People's Campaign, I'm happy to be here on behalf of the coalition, and we're happy to see you here as we have traveled around and held the 6 town hall meetings. We want you to know that the people's voice can be heard, that the people's voice has been heard, that the people's voice must be heard. And so this is not the culmination, but this is simply a stopping point on our journey, which will be completed when we have attained equality, jobs, and justice. We will not stop until we have equality, jobs, and justice. We will not be quiet until we have, because the people have said, enough, 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 enough. It is my privilege now to share with you the People's Manifesto. Whereas recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. Whereas disregard and contempt for human rights have resulted in barbarous acts which have outraged the conscience of mankind, and the advent of a world in which human beings shall enjoy freedom of speech and belief, and freedom from fear and want has been proclaimed as the highest aspiration of the common people. Whereas it is essential, if people are not to be compelled to have recourse as a last resort to rebellion against tyranny and oppression, that human rights should be protected by the rule of law. This is from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And here's the preamble to the People's Manifesto. The People's Campaign for Equality, Jobs, and Justice is a coalition of concerned people of goodwill who have joined together to give voice to the condition of the country. As a group, we are concerned with the growing frustration and mistrust of the political process in view of the continued rise in unemployment, the growing gap between the haves and the have-nots, and the unequal burden of sacrifice being placed on the lowest and the least. This coalition, out of a shared love and concern for the country, feel the need to speak in an effort to reset the moral compass of the island and its leaders around a set of core issues. The people have formulated this manifesto in order to guide those who represent them to say that they cannot continue to implement policies in the name of the people that do not serve the interests of the people. From its origins, Bermuda has existed under a system driven by mercantile interests, viewing people as a means to a profitable end. This People's Manifesto demands systemic change for the benefit of the people. The narrow confines of the centuries-old business-centered system that privileges the narrow interests of the few over the many is incompatible with the enduring and fundamental principles of equality, jobs, and justice. 405 years of history tells us that this cannot be achieved without systemic change and the establishment of core principles upon which to build a new foundation for the empowerment of all of the people. Equality. All people are equal and are entitled to equal treatment. Number one, every Bermudian should have the opportunity for post-secondary education and should not be prevented from attaining education due to the lack of funding. Number two, the government must implement an equitable taxation system that would structure taxation based upon levels of total income and the value of assets and holdings. Number three, quality health care must be accessible and affordable to all Bermudians. Number four, all Bermudians must have equal treatment under the law. The criminal justice system and the civil legal system must be accessible irrespective of financial well-being and must be administered at all levels in a manner that truly demonstrates that justice is blind. Jobs. All people are entitled to a job with a livable wage. Number five, every person should be entitled to a livable wage in proportion to the cost of living. That is to say, a wage that permits its citizens to meet primary needs of food, shelter, clothing, and health care from one primary source of employment. Number six, full employment for Bermudians must be a national priority. Number seven, the government must hold all employers accountable so that all workers will be respected and afforded the same standards and the same working conditions. Number eight, all workers must have the right to join unions or form associations to defend their rights. justice. The government is the servant of the people, and the people of Bermuda entrust the government to ensure that all of its people are treated equally, have equal opportunities, and must have equal protection under the law. Number 9, the government must implement a program specifically designed to provide true economic opportunities for persons who historically have been prevented access and opportunity. Number 10, the government must establish regulatory constraints over the market to ensure that the business community share the sacrifices and participate in practices that serve the common good, recognizing that the economy must serve the people and not the other way around. Number 11, equal rights must be the same for all citizens in Bermuda. And as such, age cannot be a barrier for access to services, capital, and employment. Number 12, the government does not own public property, but holds it in trust on behalf of the people. Therefore, should exercise proper stewardship that protects the assets of the people against privatization. In conclusion, the people of Bermuda are entitled to expect that those who are entrusted to lead them will be guided by the will of the people and make decisions based upon priorities that are consistent with the expectations, the hopes, and aspirations of all of the people. For we believe in people power. Yes, sir. We believe that the people are ready to hold their servants accountable for how they serve. And in the words of Augustine, in the absence of justice, what is sovereignty but organized robbery? We come still believing that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. We come believing in the words of Shakespeare's Portia, look how far that little candle sends its light. That's the way a good deed shines in a naughty world. And so we've come, beloved, to let our light shine. We've come to let it shine on the highways and byways. We've come to let our light shine in the hallowed halls of government. We've come to let our light shine because the Bible says, let your light so shine that people may see your good works. Then our God will be glorified. And so if we let our light shine, let it shine in the corridors of inequality. Let it shine in the corridors of unemployment. Let it shine so that justice can reign and be glorified. Let it shine on all of Bermuda's children. What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want them? What do we want? When do we want it? Hallelujah. Keep the faith. Hallelujah.